We're going to spend a little bit more time inside of the directory tree right now, and I just want to kind of share with you some basic skills with moving and manipulating files in Windows. Here is File Explorer, and there's multiple ways to get into File Explorer. You have an icon here. It looks like this, and if you click on that, it will take you to File Explorer. You can also get into your File Explorer by clicking on the Start menu. You can type Explorer, and you can click Windows Explorer. I'm going to use the Downloads folder. It's probably a pretty good folder for demonstrating because I have a lot of different kinds of files inside of here. And for starters, let's talk about selecting files. You can select files pretty easily just by clicking on them once. You don't want to double click them because that will Windows will then try to open them with the program. So just one click will do. If you need to select multiple files on a list, the best way to do that is to hold down the Control key. When you hold down the Control key, you can click on individual files and you can see that Windows is not removing my selection from previous files that I clicked. There's another way to select multiple files, and that is with the Shift key. So if I click on one file and I hold down the Shift key, I can click on a second file and Windows will highlight all of the files in between. And I can do it going down, or I can select the same files going up. So that is a very useful way to select a range of files from beginning to end. If I need to select all of the files in a folder, then the easiest way to do that is with a keyboard shortcut. And that is to hold down the Control key and type the letter A. If you're not keen on using keyboard shortcuts, it's a good skill to learn, but maybe you're not there yet. You can also just use your mouse. If you click, be careful how you do this, because if you click on the actual file name and move your mouse, the computer will think you're trying to move the file. We don't want that. Instead, you want to click out here in the white area and move your mouse down, and you can see that it is actually dragging a selection box. And how big I draw that box controls how many files that I'm selecting. This can be useful, for example, if you've got a bunch of files on your desktop. I'm just going to put a bunch on here. There we go. So if you have a lot of files on your desktop, and maybe I just want to select these files here, so I can click and draw my selection box, and it only selects those files. Or I can select just these files. There are some other things that you can do as well when you select files. Maybe you want to select all files except for a couple. So if I use my Control A trick, I can actually unselect files. If I hold down the Control key and I click on individual files, it will remove them from my selection, like that. I can select all. If I want to remove files from my selection, I hold down the Control key and click on one file. Then I hold both the Control and the Shift key, and I click on another file, and it removes all of those files from my selection. Let me show you some of the things that you can do with the file. I'm going to move this window over here. Now, the easiest thing to do with a file is to move it. So if you just click on a file, click and drag and move it. Now, when you click and drag a file from one folder on your computer to a different folder on your computer, it will remove that file from the Downloads folder and it will put it into the new folder. So you are moving the file. It is deleting the file from this here folder and creating that file in this folder. If I move it back, it does the same thing. This is different if you are moving a file between a folder on your computer, a folder on a USB flash drive, or a folder on a network drive. So just to demonstrate, here we go. This is my Tech Tools flash drive. Now I am going to actually open a new window. In this case, I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut. I'm going to hold down the Control key and push the letter N. And that gives me 2 Explorer windows. On my right, I have my Downloads folder. And then on my left, I'm going to click on this drive to open up my flash drive. Now, if I try to copy that same file over, notice that it says copy to Tech Tools. It doesn't say move to Tech Tools. So if I copy it, it has created a copy. It is on both my computer and on my USB drive. So notice the difference. When I moved it to a different folder on the same computer, it moved the file. It did not copy the file. However, if I moved it from the folder on my computer to my USB flash drive, it copied it. Look what's happening here. I already did this. I already put the file on my flash drive. And it's asking me, do I want to replace the old copy? So I'm just going to go ahead and say, yes, please replace that old copy. Now, what if I want to make a copy? If I click on the file and I bring it over, it says move to desktop. Now you can actually change this behavior by holding down certain keys. If I hold down the Control key, it changes it from move to copy. So if I let go of the Control key, it goes back to move. So I'm going to hold the Control key and let go of my mouse, and now it has created 2 copies of the file. If I hold down the Alt key, which is next to your spacebar, it gives me a third choice. This is create link in desktop. Let's talk about links. This is not a copy of this file. That's because this file is actually not an Excel spreadsheet at all. It is what is called a shortcut or a link file. This file tells the computer to open up this file. If I move or change this file, this link will stop working. So creating links or shortcuts is a good way sometimes to have easy access to things on your desktop without creating a copy of those files on your desktop. Now, of course, you can do the same thing with folders. So here is a folder that has information about all of the users in case. If I drag the file over here, it says move to the desktop, not copy, because I'm moving it to another folder that's on the same computer. If I hold down Control, it says copy. If I hold down the Alt key, it wants to create a link to that folder. So if I create a link to that folder and I double click on it, it will open that folder, but this is the same thing as if I double clicked on this folder. This behavior is the same whether you're doing it with one file or whether you're doing it with multiple files. There's another way that you can copy and cut and move and create shortcuts, and that is using these things called context menus. Context menus are the little menu that pops up when you use the right-click button on your mouse or your touchpad. So this is an example of a context menu. If I right-click on one of these files, it will give me a different set of options. For example, I can cut or copy or create shortcut, delete, or rename. In this case, I'm going to cut this file, and then if I right-click over here, I am going to paste that file. If you right-click on a file and you create a shortcut, it will create the shortcut in the same folder that you're working in, and then the solution is to drag and drop that shortcut to your destination folder. Finally, I want to show you an even faster way Keyboard shortcuts are so useful, and I really hope that you start using them more often. If you click on a file, you can do Control-C to copy, and click on your destination and hold down the Control key and press the letter V to paste. I like to think of the word V as view. So I'm copying here and I am viewing here. That's just my way of remembering it. You don't want to use the letter P because Control P is for printing, not for pasting. You can also cut in order to move files. So I'm going to use my Control key to select a few files from here. And I'm going to do Control X this time. I'm using X instead of C. Control X cuts the files, and then if I click on my destination and use Control V, it moves the files to the destination. Windows always gives you multiple ways to accomplish the same goal.